Hi, everybody. Welcome back to History Highlights with Laney. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. I hope you all are doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pullman Porter. The last video was about the 50th anniversary of Amtrak, so this coincides right along with it. Pullman porters were men hired to work on the railroad as porters on sleeping cars. Starting shortly after the American Civil War, George Pullman sought out former slaves to work on his sleeper cars. Their job was to carry passengers' bags, shine shoes, set up and maintain sleeping berths, and serve passengers. Pullman porters served American railroads from the late 1860s until the Pullman Company ceased operations on December 31st, 1968. Though some sleeping car porters continued working on cars operated by the railroad themselves, beginning in 1971, Amtrak, the term porter had been superseded in modern American usage by sleeping car attendant. So the new name is sleeping car attendant, with the former term being considered somewhat derogatory. Until the 1960s, Pullman porters were exclusively black and have been widely credited with contributing to the development of the black middle class in America under the leadership of A. Philip Randolph. Pullman porters formed the first black union, which was the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, in 1925. Formation of the union was instrumental in the advancement of the civil rights movement. Porters worked under the supervision of a Pullman conductor. In addition to sleeping cars, Pullman also provided parlor cars and dining cars used by some railroads that did not operate their own. The dining cars were typically staffed with African American cooks and waiters under the supervision of a white steward. Dining cars required a trained staff depending on the train and the sophistication of the meals. A staff could consist to up to a dozen men. Pullman also employed African American maids on deluxe trains to care for women's needs, especially women with children. In 1926, Pullman employed about 200 maids and over 10,000 porters. Maids assisted ladies with bathing, gave them manicures and dressed hair, sewed and pressed clothes, shined shoes, and helped care for the children. A brief history is prior to the 1860s, the concept of sleeping cars on railroad had not been widely developed. George Pullman pioneered a sleeping accommodation on trains, and by the late 1860s, he was hiring only African Americans to serve as porter. After the Civil War ended in 1965, Pullman knew that there was a large pool of former slaves who would be looking for work. From the very start, porters were featured in Pullman's ads promoting his new sleeper service. They were one of the features that most clearly distinguished his carriages from those of his competitors. But eventually all would follow his lead, hiring African Americans as porters, cooks, waiters, and redcaps. Pullman was essentially a chain of hotel on wheels. While the pay was very low by the standards of the day, in an era of significant racial prejudice, being a Pullman porter was one of the best jobs available for African American men. Thus, for black men, while this was an opportunity, at the same time, it was also an experience of being stereotyped as the servant class and having to take a lot of abuse. One of the most remarkable stories was about Jackie Gleason and how he would ride. All the porters wanted to be on the run that Jackie Gleason was on. Why, you ask? That's a good question. Why? Not only because he gave every porter $100, but it was just fun. The excitement, the respect he gave each per porter. He called them by their first name. He always had a piano car, and they sang and danced and had a great time. Pullman Porters were good looking, clean, and immaculate in dress. Their style was quite manly. Their language was carefully crafted so that they had a sense of intelligence about them. They were a good role model for young men. Being a Pullman Porter was a prestigious position because it offered a steady income and an opportunity to travel the country, which was rare for Black people at that time. In the late 19th century, Pullman Porters were among the only people in their community to travel extensively, and many of them supported community projects such as education and schooling. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall and former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown were descendants of Pullman Porters. Marshall was also a porter himself, as well as Malcolm X and the photojournalist Gordon Parks. So there you have a little bit of history regarding Pullman Porters. Be well, stay safe, and stay in peace, not pieces. Hit that bell so you will know every time I upload a video. Word of the year, peace. Peace. Deuces. See you soon.